Charles. This is Gamer 1745, and we are playing Manor Lords back in the 14th century. This is 1300s. So, let me, before we get fully started, just checking that we are going live. And hello, Arno, my friend. Yes, you are first. That is very good. Okay, it looks like we are streaming, and Elizabeth is here. Hello, Elizabeth. Good to have you here. All right. Like I say, we are in the 1300s, the 14th century, in Franconia here with our small village, rather American style with right angles. We are claiming this area here to get fishing, more stone deposits, iron, more clay. So we have big clay here, so we're not so worried about clay. But we are worried about fishing and stone and whatnot. So, and our iron is way up here, which we have to build a bridge or whatever to get to. So, yeah, and we still have bandit problems. We did do one campaign against a horde of bandits over here. We still have bandit camp, and bandit camp. And just get everybody caught up. So let's continue this. This winter we're going to go more bandit hunting, I think, but for now, let's let our people do the farming. We've got a decent harvest of grain in. Also a lot of barley. Okay, we have 21 people unassigned. Right now we're not building any new houses, so they're mostly I think any new structures. So they're mostly just hanging out. So we need to get them to do things. Okay, we are down fuel for 3 months, food for 4 months. Well, we have, when they say food, well, right now that's not counted as food. So that is a not exactly right. I mean, mostly edible there would be edible. So yes, we have that. Well, thank you, Arno. I do like the village here. And of course, we are growing things like apples and vegetables and pigs and goats. Oh, we got a full. Let's man our hunting camp. We have stripped all the berries off. And we got all the people from there. Right, okay. So, not. Now, how are we wanting to expand all of this? One of my considerations here, not the only one, but is fertility. That's sort of why we started building here, leaving some of the greener is more fertile areas. There's rye and barley. No, flat. Okay, so yeah, we're not going to be farming in here, even though it is green. So, there we go. We have a well here. We can use this strip of land for markets and whatnot. I think like that. Let's do that. Let's. Can you fish? No, Arno. You can only fish from the fishing pond. Now I'm. Romer's running around. I am sure from a river like this, people fished in the Middle Ages. That's not in my mind a question at all. What is a question, or what they did do, is not so much like a random pond here. I mean, to some degree, I'm sure they did. But what they would often do is, I don't know, say take an area like this off from a river and turn that into a pond that they would channel some water in from the river and create a fish farm. Create an actual sort of farm that was a significant um, you know, endeavor. Produce, fairly large volumes. What I'm hoping to do here is, yes, get them working up there, but because we're going to clear some of this land and put our manor. That way it's sort of strategically centered near the center of this map to react to bandits and others. Hey, Drumnuska, how you doing? Okay, we have quite the reserves here of money. So let's, since we have one of these large plots, yeah, one more good orchard. Um, it takes a while for it to get properly producing. And then garden. Okay, we haven't defined. We'll do pigs in this one. That and let's do it there. So we're very much trying to supplement our bread with apples, vegetables. We never run out of extra berries. We may need a second farmhouse here, but first let's get these built. Let me speed this up a little bit. Now that we have a consistently running tavern, let's take a look here at church level. They'd like better. We have tavern supply, water access, good, food stall fare. Okay, tiles and stones. Little worried about running out of stones. Region claimed. All right. Well, we've claimed this region here. So, let's actually let's pause it now. What we can do is a settlers camp. Well, before we do that, let's look at utility here. Okay, so that's really bad. Okay. Fishing, whatever. Okay, well, okay. We're gonna do modest. uh, Okay, so we now have another settlement. What we need to do here is build some storehouses. Okay, and maybe some. And yes, one. We will do that. First, let's put the granary right there. Yes, you know, they should have some food. Oh, no fuel, but yeah, okay. Now over here, where we have 2 months of fuel. Hey, Raga. Okay. Uh, going to clear work areas. Let them work wherever they feel like. What I also want to do here is, okay, we have small stable, 2 animals. What we're going to do here is relocate this out to here. Oh, spring must be here. Bold snap over here. -10. Wow. Yeah, that sounds cold to me. We should get the plow for this community here. I think maybe next. Can we do that next? Yeah, we should be able to do that next. We get a few more upgraded houses. Okay, so we got the granary. Let's populate it with some workers to get the food in so it won't spoil. And the next thing I want is storehouse. What is good now is that we have this community with militia, etc. They'll be able to move to defend this other community here that has no real defense yet. Yes, we know they're exposed. They should be getting people. Get the food stocks into the granary. Keep the tools from rusting. Hurry up, people. Okay, let's take this road, and we're going to go from here. Like that. But now they're winnowing some of the wheat down so we'll start some Hey, Niagara. Good to have you. Okay, so storehouse. Make sure we get some people now getting the stuff into the storehouse. We need one there. Okay, and we want to get a logging camp going. Ram my nose of U-boat into the bottom of the sea. Oh? The horse is standing out here and he has no cover. There's no winner. There's got to be something wrong with you. Yeah, Arno has the right idea. Be happy. Not freezing ice all over everywhere. I think they're cutting down some trees because there's now a big dent here. But okay, now we have the stable here. Hopefully I'll get an oxen out here to hang out to work the logging. Well, a tanker would be pretty good kill for the war. Don't know, depending on what the cargo ship may have been carrying, important equipment, sure, yeah. Okay, logging camp. All right, well, Upgrade a couple of these houses here. Approval rating ain't so good here because we don't have any houses yet. Okay, they're grinding grain into flour. Good. Malt house. Getting there. No, I don't know how much fuel they'll have. We probably need another woodcutter's lodge. Let's see. Let's stick that. Now let's make it a little longer here. To get proper access. Start clearing out some of these woods. Yeah, we're getting a little close to that, but well, I don't know. Maybe we should have been more over here. Anyway, is this like Sandbox, or do you have an agenda to follow? Well, okay. More of a sandbox. There's right now, because again, this is still, early access. There are 3 mission types. One is to simply build a community, if you will. And there are no threats. The second type is, what I'm playing here, there are bandit threats. So we have to deal with these bandit camps and sometimes bandit raids. So you have that additionally. The third type, there's a off-map baron that will come in and start claiming land, and you have to battle him. So it's sort of sandboxy, I would say. But there's a general overall idea there of what you're proposing. Hey, Beam Slam. Yes, Lord Gamer, we are the Lord of the Manor, but we don't have a manor house yet. We're clearing some land. We're getting logging camp working. Well, we got 300, so I think I'm going to maybe right here. Right here. Still, even though, okay, that's what I'm looking for. Hitching post. Let's put a hitching post right there. We got this long travel. We could use another oxen or 2. Yeah. Yeah, my people come first. Get their homes first. Probably a bit backwards from reality, but Because if you do have a, bandit situation like we have here, you would probably build your fortified manor home first. And that way, even if the people are living in tents, if danger comes, they could all quickly flee to the manor house and secure themselves, inside the fortified building. Um, so the next one, okay. We need to have one more of these. That'll get us 3. I need a bit more, but we're coming to winter here. Probably started this at the wrong time of year.
Can I stay where there's drink?
Why it's not? Oh, it is switched over now. Okay, so everybody's working here. Just past the city of Pochi. I don't know that city. I mostly drive for Nevada, drive between LA and Las Vegas and back, and used to do that rather regularly. Oh, they need more logs. We got a big pile of logs over here, supplies, 24 of them in the logging camp. 18 post. Okay, we're going to get another ox. And we have also this small stable here with 2 ox. Well, this may not work out well. Oh, build that. Get us some food in here. Let's assign you. Now we can also unassign the randomly that hunting camp going. Hopefully people won't freeze or starve there. They could. I could really mess that up maybe. We'll see how that goes.
Gave the old ox a handful of month-old grain.
Yes, there sort of is a research mechanic. What we have here is not so much research, but community size. So when we get um, into 5 plots of level 2 development, we get another unlocks another level of things. So we've already unlocked forest management, which gets us more berries. We've unlocked orchardry, which gets us orchards. So it's sort of like it's more a combination of size of community and community development that will unlock specialization capabilities. It's not so much like, do we know how to plow or do we know what a plow is, but do we have enough of a community to support plowing or support some of the like armor making and whatnot and some of the various specialties. So you'll pass Vegas soon. Why pass Vegas? Stop it, Vegas. Come on, Niagara. Vegas can be fun. Get constructing the hunting camp. Oh, well, what we're going to do now here is we're going to where here there it is. Priority high. We want to get you getting food. You have urgent delivery, and I need the money to open my next garage. Okay. Still have this big pile of supplies over here. We still have a small stable here with 2 oxen that should get the logs and whatnot here to upgrade these plots. We have 21 unassigned families. I don't know what's taking so long to get battling spaceships with the world's most annoying voiceover that you can't, as long as you can ignore it. It's pretty neat. Okay. Hunting camp. Let's put someone hunting so that we can get the food. Right. Now, okay, so time for some. Well, let's hire these guys. Sign the contract. But where are they coming in? I forgot to check that one. Okay, well, we can still survive. Right. Yeah, let's form up over here. Into positions. Keep moving, keep moving. Mm. Okay, settlement here increased, and we will get the heavy plow because this is one of our main farming communities going to be here that will. We're going to add a plowing station here. Keep building your houses. There is. Oh, here. I don't know. Let's get both of you guys up here. Okay, the hunting camp should be enough to provide food through the winter here for the 5 families. We're getting the second house completed. The popularity will come up. Down here, food 2 months. Well, okay, let's. I think this is our communal oven. We need to put a few families to work there because right now we have lots and lots of flour. So we have a malt house, which is taking barley and turning it into malt. Somewhere in here, it's the bowyers. Brewery, right here, we do have a brew house. They don't have tavern supplies for some reason. I don't know why. But they are at least there to turn some. I mean, maybe it's the tavern. Maybe we should move some of these around. Oh, the Navy wants to just get used down here. Hey, MMDB, how you doing? Or fame and money. But about plot level, one thing that is displayed from time to time, some kind of plot that carry. No, plot is the plot are these. Burge plot level 1, Burge, however you want to say this, plot level 2. It's the level of housing these equal. The housing, development stages of how nice the house is. Ah, I see. Related to the- Get people inside. Keep some level of food going. Get to this side of the river here. None of the bandits have come out and played yet. These guys are almost sort of like bandits anyways. Militia to go join up with the mercenaries. Yeah, I think we can stop that working. I think we got all of our flour ground. The oven will turn that into edibles. Okay, once we get these 2 units organized up, we'll go clear out these bandits over here in these loose camps. And then we probably go clear out this bandit over there. The one thing I haven't checked over here is underground water. Oh boy. Way out there. Well, let's... Yeah, you're running out of fuel. I hear you. Once we get the next houses built, we'll get a firewood hopping camp, whatever you want to call it. Okay. That area? Oh, before we dive too deep into there, okay. Still need a little more work on our houses. Alright. Again, let's get across the river. Here, These so-called bandits are just people living off-grid, gamer. Give them some space. Who's living on grid here? What grid? What grid are these people living on? They're AI. No, it's no problem. MNDB boy. In this scenario, they're just sort of nuisance elements to push a little bit more development for your, your Manor Lord. You're developing your Manor. Right now, these guys are encamped. If just because they're camped, they will periodically just sort of magically steal stuff from you. Sometimes they'll come in with a bunch of them and as a raid and try to pillage your whole community. Okay, so this should be 18. This should be 18 once they rouse themselves. So let's move you to there. You to there. We don't really want to fight in the woods, so we're hopefully getting through the woods before the fight starts. Come up like that, just just to be clear, everybody, this is not a war game. This is a manor slash city management game that has some combat. So if you're looking for a war game, this ain't it. You're looking for a game that has a bit of combat, that you develop communities, towns, however you want to say it. Yeah. Okay, so these guys are coming here now. Right. Okay, so we're going to stop having them run. That means they'll be disorganized longer. You can see here they are. There's the bandits coming there. Let's get like that. Archers are pathetically bad in this game. Fight in the fields, we'll fight in the beaches, yes. Yes, the open will favor us, so we're going to go basically 2 ranks wide. You guys watch the flanks here, and you come up right about there. Get into some idea of formation. They're looking like they're going after these guys. Well, I don't know where they're going. Push up here. I really don't care about these bandits or these brigands here because these are mercenaries. They're not guys from my community, but we could still not. We can still use them here up a bit better. the other camp woken up yet? No, it looks like they have. Once you get close enough to them, they sort of realize that they're under threat, so they'll... Okay, so they are defeated and fleeing, which is good. Anyway, his Manor Lords has decide at point if they want to be a city builder or Age of Empire, keeping battle fighting system small and simple, like in patrician. If you don't know patrician, we shall never surrender. Of course, Arno, we shall not surrender. Well, okay. I mean, I have talked with the main developer. Well, text message back a little bit with the main developer. Now, that's more than a year or more ago, probably almost 2 years ago. And I've read other things that he's published as well. I don't know what the final map styles will be. We now have 3 basic maps. This is the one with the river. There's one that's mountainous, and then there's one near the sort of original, sort of just plains, or farmland, or whatever you want to say. This is really a, you can definitely build the things, the communities into what I would call a city. But as we look at this here, setting, we can do with grain overlay, sort of show this off a little bit better during winter here. We can see that this is, we're trying to manage a manor. A lot of housing, and I got a lot of housing without developing the city levels up very high so that I could have enough militia to fight off the bandits. It was part of what I was doing. And so this really isn't, at this stage, a city. This is a bunch of housing for people to, and we could easily create another, what they call this a farmhouse. Well, house implies people living here. There's nobody living here. This is farm building or whatever, where you would store your tools, where you would put up in the loft, put your grain to dry, and keep it nice until it can be turned into, flour and baked into bread and whatnot. So this is more of a, farm buildings as opposed to a house, which implies people living in it. So this is, you have your tavern. We're going to be building one of the things you will need, and which I'm low on in this particular region. Each region here is its own sort of area. So I have 57 stone left here in this deposit. Now I have up here in this deposit 220 stone. But I actually, to get these 2 communities here that I now have, they actually sort of have to trade. So I can't just have the stone delivered over here. I've got to give this community something it might want, like clay tiles or something, and a little bit back and forth here. Now, you can definitely create what is functionally cities by improving the quality of the buildings and whatnot. So again, we can look here. You can see that this is very, very green. Zoom out, but not that far. We can see this is very, very green. This isn't for wheat. More green, a lot less green. So certain areas can specialize in, say, wheat growing and provide wheat to other areas that don't grow a lot, and they can switch back and forth with some other commodities here and do trading in between your communities. And so you very well may have an area that would be a city with some other areas that would be more farmland and whatnot. So it's meant to be a you know, not, I don't know if city builder, but it's definitely not like an Age of Empires kind of thing. At least that's not what I understand it to be designed to be. Okay, so this community over here has increased its level. We need fuel, so we're going to build woodcutters lodge as opposed to loggers lodge so that we can get fuel here. We have one extra building. We don't have much approval. We need to get over 50%. We got these guys out. That'll bring us enough meat through the winter to keep us going, I think. Yes, 3 months. We still have some bread left in the granary and whatnot. So yeah, that'll work out. Okay, so these guys are, I think, if they get their fuel working, that'll be okay. Okay, click. There we go. And this game is called Manor Lords, therefore, my understanding, you don't want to have a city because you change your power. There really isn't a power structure kind of struggle situation there. That would really do that. Yeah, burgers back in the day would. Okay, here they're coming out to meet us. Would be something of a power structure, yes, that might challenge your Manor Lord's authority, but that I don't think is yet in the game. Driving towards Phoenix now. Okay. See them through those trees out there. Well, in reality, they'd be clout shooting or whatever, in which they'd be shooting way up in a high arc and coming down, instead of this sort of barely over the heads of these guys. Have we haven't done any damage to them yet. Okay, we want them to push forward and attack these guys here. Brigands in. Now, especially if you're fighting the other Baron, he can have rather good troops as well, as opposed to just these, banditry type guys. We will send our mercenaries over here. Hello, Foka. How you doing? We increased by building a house. Yeah. Well, this is something of a game, so it needs a certain mechanic. These guys up here to get that camp. Is each individual bandit stronger than each individual soldier of yours? Hello, Chunk Oka or Kaka. I don't know. C. I guess it's is that OC? No, CCAA. Okay. Um, Not really. What we're seeing here are troop types. These guys are basically the same as the bandits in that they're just cheap ass guys that have a mace, a club, maybe a shield. Where these guys here, they have spears and shields. These guys have bows. Bows are pathetically bad in this game. As we upgrade, we can upgrade these guys to have like chainmail and helmets in time, but we don't have any right now. So, and we also see once I get my manor house built, we will get some retainers that we can much better equip, so that they'll be more like, knights, if you will. Not in like in barrages. Well, archers would do something of a, at least my thoughts, do something of a, okay, we want the message. No, we're gonna put the money, we need the money in the treasury. We're getting enough money into the town. Okay, we want to come over and deal with this winter. So you guys keep going up there. You guys can head over this way. There is a fair amount of shock value to a volley. Trying not to forget this as we are. We get our woodcutter's lodge is still being worked on because we are out of fuel. People will freeze. In winter, we got wood. Be able to afford things like mercenaries and men-at-arms and whatnot. Now, by taking out these bandit camps, we'll no longer we shouldn't be losing stuff to theft. What are we doing here? Okay, we need more stone, which we can get here, but we're running low. Oh, food, yes. Oh, we have plenty of food. See, in the granary here, we have 99 flour, and we have a communal oven here cranking out bread. And we can look at our markets, food stall, okay, bread and more bread and berries. We can come over here and look at this one. And nothing there. Food stall, nothing there. Maybe we need a few more people working in the granary. No, we're fully. Okay, well, and we have over, that's wood, oh, over here. More food stalls. Bread and berries. More bread and berries. But we definitely have, maybe they're not so much in season right now, apples and vegetables, and we have a fair amount of meat. So, how are, okay, these guys are sort of used up there. Let's continue here. For this single bandit camp, I don't think I need the full all the units, but we're moving them this way. Might as well. Okay, we'll get one family working on that. Family working over here, which will get the meat from there over to the community better. Ah, growing snowballs. Okay. Spearman, get the archers ready, and get the brigands who will not go into any sort of formation. They just sort of hang out as a clump. While they're doing that, let's come over here. Get some more stone being quarried. Uh-oh, rotten egg inside. Mm-mm. Right. Our goal. Let's come up to here. Let's get you to here. Battle of the Bridge of Hastings. Yeah. Well, we've crossed the bridge. Okay, here come the brigands. Let me get a bit closer here. Fast speed. Down a bit. Let's. Okay. So these guys can move to here. You guys push. Well, you guys come this way. Just in case they get. We don't want them slaughtering my archers again. Okay. They're running away. Yeah, well, it's supposed to be Franconia. But everybody speaks English nowadays, so. For better or worse, I think we've settled on English as our international language. At least it's better than French being the international language. So now, that used to be the international language was French, but now I think we know it's not going to be in the future. We're going to get these guys heading back to our community. Find, which will just be money. Belongs in the treasury now. Good. All right. Well, let's um we'll disband. Yes, we want to disband our mercenaries. So we're no longer paying for the mercenaries. You guys come home. Now we're back to peaceful pursuits. Pretty low on regional wealth. The mercenaries cost us some. Okay, these guys are getting firewood. So we've got plenty of firewood, plenty of food. Let's get some more logging done this winter here. Okay, we have 284 planks. So he's keeping, yeah, Bowyer's shop is continuing to make bows to hopefully sell. Hey, wrong arm, how you doing? David Fletching, yes. Well, this has been a rather disruption having these guys way out here. Didn't think it would be this bad, but trying to get the resources, or maybe it's the troops out there that are the bigger disruption. That could be. Still haven't gotten that done. Oh, oh, somehow ran into some more bandit camp. Okay. All right. Didn't realize there was one over here. Warm up. Warm up. Now we're 36 to 18. Shield wall versus guys with clubs. And they give up. Well, let's go plunder the bandit camp. You keep heading back to here. And on to the treasury now. We got 867 silver or whatever this is, money. I think we got most of the bandit camps cleared out, if not all of them. Honor, glory, cool. Okay, well, win. When springtime comes, we can have some fishing going there. No, that's what I'm looking for. Let's upgrade this. Alright, you're here, so you're going to disband. It just means everybody's going to start walking home. They can only disband them once they're back in their territory. And disband. There we go. They're still the militia units, they're just no longer organized, ready to fight. Alright, well, things are looking good. Oh, how are we doing over here? Okay. Alright, let's small village. Alright, how are we doing? I thought we were a small village here. Okay. Grand settlement, large village. So I think we can do this. Yeah. We're not going to do walls and gates, outer tower, or tax office, which is cosmetic only, it says right now. We don't have the stone for that. We do have the stone for this if we want to. No, we're just going to do this and commit right now. Yeah, not everybody wants to say who they want to vote for. Yes, if you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the thumbs up button. It does help. We think interesting comment. Niagara said, I'd support every party that is not destroying our democratic system. Well, I don't know if any of you saw J.D. Vance, the current American vice president, speech about democracy that he gave in Munich. Was it yesterday or something? Do we want to pick up? Do we have? Yes, we have the money for another. Vance isn't crazy. Why do you think Vance? Why? Yeah, I know he's not crazy. I don't know why you would think that. Well, democracy at its core definition is majority rule. Gamer's getting his house built. Now, what I like the aspects of checks and balances and a separation of powers. Well, now you're talking about a republic, as generally defined. See, here's taking a drink here. Here's the thing. A nation needs a consensus, which a consensus isn't a simple majority. A consensus is a overwhelming majority. Not every single person, you know, and let's say a consensus is somewhere between 70 and 80% of the, adult population or something like that agree on things. Okay, so you can have somewhere between 20 and 30% disagreeing, and those can be, all on one side, all on the extreme left or extreme right, or more likely, some on each side. But if you have a consensus as to the, as to things, and I'm saying it that way because it doesn't have to be always political. And I forget exactly what it was, but some student, and I watched just a little bit of her, I forget what it was, but was something about, sort of a report on something being political. And I sort of tuned out very quickly and left the YouTube video, because what she was talking about wasn't politics. It was societal. Because politics, and I know these young folk, she was, I don't know, I was just sort of surfing around, and I don't know if she was in like high school or college or whatever, it doesn't matter. But they see everything as political. Political is laws, people, is laws. Society or social is not laws, it's social convention. It's like, let's just say here, and I'm thinking, social convention, the amount of clothing you wear at a beach. What is legal? It may be, maybe everything, it can be totally naked, could be legal, but nobody is naked because social convention is that you wear a bathing suit. And you will stand out. Not that necessarily anybody will throw stones at you, but, as long as you're behaving, relatively well. And that if you are naked, well, so what? But you would stand out and be sort of the odd person out, and so, in Europe, at least, it used to be sort of the American joke that the men would wear these little Speedo things, that, that swimmer athletes would wear, but most men in America wear more, not that tight of male bathing suits. So if you were to wear those kind of things at the beach, you would stand out in America. So that's sort of social convention versus, again, there may be no laws, or laws may state something, but the social convention is to wear certain levels of clothing to, not stand out and be pointed at and laughed at, or whatever. So consensus doesn't have to be everything legal or, codified in laws. It can just be cultural or societal. The problem that we face in the non-Western world is there is not a, well, and it varies from country to country. There isn't a consensus on the ideas of institutions, okay? There is more of a consensus on the idea of my tribe. And we can see this in the Arab world, we can see this in the African world, and we can see this in places like some of the, I was watching, it's maybe been a year now, some videos on some of the small island nations out in the Pacific, that it's like one or two factions that are not like, oh, hey, high tax group, low tax group, or um, open borders or closed borders or whatever. No, it's just like there's two factions on the island that are sort of clannish, if you will, and who gets to be in charge. It's not like an ideological competitiveness. You know, you know, like I say, high taxes, low taxes, or socialism or capitalism. It isn't that kind of thing, and it isn't like, oh, who is going to run the government better than the other group. It's just who's in power and who gets and who's going to give the contracts. Well, if I'm in power, I'm going to give it to my family, and if the other guys are in power, they're going to give it to their extended family. And that's about the only decision making that they're voting on in their elections, as to which faction is in power. I guess to a point there's a consensus on everything else, but so democracy, all it's doing is keeping them from getting enough friends together and going and killing the other guys and you taking power. I mean, there is sort of the big heavy hand of America, because we gave them their independence after World War II, because they had sort of either been colonies of Germany or Japan, depending on what time frame, and maybe both at different times on these small islands out there. And so, and it's really only sort of the American pressure that keeps them having elections, instead of just hey, we're in charge and we're going to stay in charge until somebody kicks us out. And so you get a lot of people using democracy as a means to determine which faction is in power, and then there's no longer a need for democracy, because we've now decided what clan or whatever group is going to be in charge. And we can also see democracy looking at the post-World War I world that formerly had Kaisers. I'm thinking of the German Empire and the Austrian Empire. And democracy is just being used as a method to see, are the communists going to be in power? And then it's going to become a communist state. Or are the Nazis going to be in power? And then it's going to be a Nazi state. Or, which group is fighting out for the hearts and minds of Germany, and once it's decided, we're going back to an authoritarian system, because that's what the people were comfortable with. Goes, the subtitle of this series is, we really haven't been talking about it much today, Collectivism versus Individualism, but my thinking has been, and I know some other philosophers, shall we say, have also been using some of the titles of cogs that and including J.D. Vance in his speech, I think yesterday, mentioned that governments have been treating people as if they're just replaceable cogs. If we need more workers, we just import them. They're just, there is no difference between a Spanish worker and a German worker and an Arab worker. They're just all workers, and they can just all work in the factories, and they're just all replaceable cogs. Well, I've been saying that's how people have been being treated since World War I, as cogs, and we've been fighting over formulas. Okay. And the formulas can be democracy or authoritarian, or capitalism versus socialism, or um, you know, open borders or closed borders, or it's just we're fighting over formulas, and we're treating people as if they're replaceable cogs. But what is democracy supposed to be? Well, democracy comes out of the Greeks. Athens, which we often look at as the birthplace of democracy, was a collection of tribes. And I, I'm on, and I'll get back to what you guys are saying in chat in just a moment. And I'm on a little shaky ground of just what the nature of the tribes were. Now these aren't like people like Indians or hill people living up in the mountains. These were Athenians. They are many generations, but they were in different sort of tribes, and I don't know how much of it was familial, family groups versus regions of the city versus, and I just don't know. I'm sure it was mentioned way back in my classes in university, but I don't remember. Versus sort of like guilds, sort of different jobs, and that all very well may overlap too, because of course people often have the same jobs as their parents or their father, or they live in the families may live in the same district of the city of Athens, but there were different tribes, and it wasn't a binary situation of one of two tribes in Athens. So it was multiple tribes. So you would have uh, factions, realigning between the different groups, and there wasn't really a huge ideological differences. Now, at times, Athens would have, in essence, dictators, but the dictators weren't necessarily something that was anti-democratic, because, like later in the Roman Republic, at times they would elect a dictator because, hey, they were being besieged by barbarians around the city, and we got to put somebody in charge, and we can't run it by committee. And so it wasn't like necessarily, sometimes it was, but it wasn't necessarily that someone is marched in with the army and overthrowing democracy. It was like, oh shit, we're at war again with Sparta, we need to put somebody in charge to fight the Peloponnesian Wars or whatever. So they would nominate an authoritarian figure, and it really wasn't running around ideological on democracy versus authoritarian, or ideological of capitalism versus communism, because realize, you got to remember, at least in the heyday, there's different economic systems that the Greeks had. Sparta, at least during its heyday, outlawed money. You couldn't have money. Money was not a thing in Sparta. Not that everybody was equal. Definitely there were the Spartans and the Helots, basically a semi-slave lower class. But there was, I think, wealth based on land ownership and food production and whatnot, but there wasn't money. Late Sparta, I think they do sort of get corrupted with money, but at the heyday it isn't. So there isn't, so there are different people running around in Greece overall with different governmental philosophies and whatnot. And, famously, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle all hated democracy. They see it as tyranny of the majority. Especially Plato, and the way Plato versus the way Aristotle uses the word republic are both very different. But republics are meant to be and that's what America is a republic. It is not a democracy. Is meant to be a complicated balancing of power form of government. Within the American Republic, we use democratic means to transition between political leadership. Meaning we have formulated set time periods for elections. So right now in America, if we were to lose the president and the vice president, we wouldn't hold a new election. It would be the Speaker of the House. It'd be what's his name? I'm picturing his face. I'm blanking on his name right now. He would become the president. We have a formula, and then he would become the president, and then I think the Senate would maybe choose a vice president at that time. We have some sort of formula for that. And where in a more parliamentary type system, whether, somebody's assassinated or dies of a heart attack, or if they lose confidence, they can hold a snap election, sort of like what's happening now in Germany. So a little more dynamic of a system. And so democracy is in my opinion, a very poor form of government. But democratic representation within government, particularly in America, we have the House of Representatives, or like the British Parliament, or whatever. That's democratic representation within government. And periodic elections to either confirm, hey, this either individual or this party is doing well in running the government, or hey, it's fucked up, let's try a different guy or girl or whatever to run the government. Yeah, that's good, because you have periodic check-ins with the people to see what they think is going on. So we have the problem of, in Germany today, that they believe that they've decided. The German people have decided it is either going to be a socialist government or it's going to be the Christian government. Those are your only two choices, people. It's been decided. We can't allow any other governments to function in Germany. Okay, geographic. I just looked up and saw. Yeah, geographic. Okay, divisions. We've decided. If the AFD is going to possibly win, we have to ban them. This is the exact. This. And I was talking to a few people recently, and you guys know who you were. Is why I still fear the Germans, because it's the exact same mentality that when they decided that we're a National Socialist government, we're a National Socialist government. Now, yeah, okay, so they're not, the German establishment believes that they've decided that it's going to either be functionally a CDU, CSU government, or it's going to be a socialist government. Anything else, I don't want a communist government. I don't want a true Nazi government, but it can't go to a FDP. It can't go, to a AFD. It can't, we can't have anything but the two-party system in Germany. That's the only acceptable government. Otherwise, we're going to ban people. This is the problem with a lot of places in democracies. They have a sort of set of, we use democracy to get to the location that we want to be at, and then we shut down democracy because we've chosen what we're going to do. And that's a forever thing. And so, is Germany ready for democracy? I don't know that it is. Because, we have the AFD in Germany now, which I suspect it may get the most votes. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to get the most seats, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get the majority. But I suspect it's going to get the most votes. But what if we were to have a true restore the Kaiser party in Germany? We want a Christian Kaiser party in Germany. And, we're going to find whoever the Hohenzollern, because it's not going to be Habsburg, the Hohenzollern, and I'm sure I'm butchering the term, sorry, Niagara, heir to the Kaiser, and we're going to put him in charge, and he's going to be the head of state. Now we're still going to, the party is still going to, we're still going to have, like there was under the Kaiser, we're still going to have elections for the Bundestag, and we're still going to have a prime minister, but the prime minister, it needs to be a consensus between the parliament and the Kaiser, meaning he has to be approved by both. It's not just whoever, right, left, or center, whoever gets the most votes. He's got to be somebody acceptable to the Kaiser, and so he may even be somebody from a minority party, who's the actual prime minister. But to pass laws, you've got to get a majority, in parliament. But you have, and the Kaiser is working as head of state, and whether he's also head of government or not, I don't know. And so what if you had some party that's actually wanting to change the constitution of Germany and to reestablish the Kaiser? Heaven forbid. Trump would not allow a German Kaiser. It sounds more important than the president. Well, but this could be 6 years from now. I'm just saying, what if you had a party that wanted to structurally change Germany? Now, do it through the Constitution, in that they're not doing a march on Berlin like Mussolini did a march on Rome, or Hitler's putsch in Bavaria or Munich or whatever you want to say. They're wanting to get consensus, but they're starting now. Like let's say, and they're probably some little group that's a Kaiserist party. But let's just say it's starting to grow, and they want to change the Constitution through constitutional means to reestablish the Kaiser. right now, I think the German government would outlaw this group. If they started to get, more than 10 people signing up for this new party. That, of course, is very undemocratic. Because if the consensus of the people want a Kaiser, well, then that's the democratic thing to do. Now, notice what I said, consensus of the people. Because, hey, if you're wanting a Kaiser party just gets 30% in the polls or gets 30% in the seats or whatever, well, they're never going to have a Kaiser because it's never going to get the consensus enough to change the Constitution. It'll just be the sort of right-wing authoritarian party within Germany itching to have a Kaiser one day. But Germany won't allow something like that. So democracy is not a value in and of itself to be held up as good, in my opinion. What is held up to be good is good governance, is a representative form of government within the government, meaning like a parliament, like a Congress, like national elections periodically. That is something to be held good. So problems with democracy are manyfold, but one of them is if you do not have a consensus, then you don't have stability in government, which means you're not going to have stability in society, because if one week we're going to build solar panels and we're going to build wind farms, or 2 years later, just as we're getting halfway done with the program, the other side wins and they're going to tear down those things and build nuclear power plants and start building nuclear power plants. And then 2 years or 4 years or whatever later, when they're almost getting ready to have nuclear power plants come online, the other party wins and they tear down the nuclear power plants and start building solar and wind power plants back and forth. If you don't have a stable consensus on energy policy, on border controls, on just about anything in society, you're going to have chaos. And that will just breed more and more chaos until it's necessary to have an authoritarian government, because people can't function long-term in chaos. Sure, you can have 2-3 months of what the government's going to do, campaigning, everything put on hold until we figure it out. Sure, yeah, but you can't forever keep it as, chaos and switching back and forth between radically different programs and ideas. So when people say, what's going to keep your democracy or the most democratic, that's, and by that, what do they mean? I don't think most Western political leaders are going to get in power and try to overthrow the system. Meaning, I don't think Marine Le Pen, if she becomes the premier of France, she's going to start banning other political parties. I don't think she's going to suspend elections going forward, and she's going to turn herself into some sort of dictator of France. I really don't think that. We already see in places like Britain, there isn't freedom in Britain. I mean, anybody who thinks the British people are free right now are mistaken, because if you say the wrong things in Britain, you will go to prison longer than if you stab somebody. So you're not free in Britain. If you're not free to speak your mind, it's one thing out there to say, like in Germany, to ban the Nazi Party. Okay. And I know there's Holocaust denial laws, but my understanding, and Niagara or other Germans can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I don't know if true freedom, well, once you start putting true in front of it, what do you mean? To what extreme? But I think you can be a Nazi in Germany. You're just not going to be part of the political system in Germany. Meaning, if some nut job, I know you can't wear party uniforms or whatever, so you don't get to march around in a Nazi uniform. But if someone was known to be a Nazi in Germany, you don't go to prison for it. Now, you're shunned in society, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're shunned in society, and you're not going to be forming a political party running for office anywhere in Germany. But you can be a Nazi and be known as a Nazi. Because I do know that there were a bunch of, back in the 50s and the 60s in West Germany, there was, and I have a couple of books published by them, by Nazi organizations or veterans or former, or however they would tout themselves as, like, former members of the Waffen-SS organization or something like this. They put former or veteran or whatever is part of the title. So they're not current Waffen-SS members. They're former Waffen-SS Members Association or something like that. And they were allowed to exist. And Paul Hauser was one of the leaders of the group back in the day. And so yeah, so you'd be allowed to exist. But in Britain, if you say anti-Muslim things or anti-LGBT things, you go to jail. Not just you don't get to run for office, you go to jail in Britain. So, and that's, so that's some of the big difference. Now let me just check the chat here, go back up, because I don't mean to ignore you even when I go into lecture mode. I like, yes, okay, Niagara up here, going back at least a way. Checks and balances and the separation of powers. Yes, that's the idea coming out of the Roman Republic, that the American founding fathers very much, they were some very, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, were literally some of the most well-educated people on the planet at that time, in the 1770s. Benjamin Franklin, well-traveled. He, he isn't, he has influence over the Declaration of Independence. I don't know how much on the later Constitution, but he's definitely, educating and forming the American consensus. And, he was well-traveled to London before the American Revolution. He goes to Paris during the American Revolution to get support, knows a lot of people. Thomas Jefferson is not well-traveled outside of America, I don't think, but he's read the Quran. There's a translation of the Quran in which he's written a bunch of notes on, the book, and other things. He's a very, very well-read man. And so there's some of these people that are, for their day, they had some of the best scholarship on the planet. And so they look at the Roman Republic as a model, not to, we're going to do exactly what the Roman Republic did, because they saw how that, becomes in essence, a Roman monarchy or whatever, eventually. But look at it as what's good, what's bad from it, and tries to form it up, and tries to look at that to sort of make a power balance similar to what England had at the time, with the president is the equivalent of the king, the Senate is equivalent to the House of Lords, but it's not hereditary, and the House of Representatives is equivalent to Parliament. The Supreme Court, originally, I would say, if you look at it, wasn't really meant to be a third branch of government that it's become. It was originally just sort of, instead of having the king or the president be the ultimate court, deciding on matters. Sure, the president could pardon somebody. The Supreme Court was really sort of meant to be sort of a court that would deal with disputes between the states, kind of thing, a little bit. But most of the laws were really envisioned to be just done within the states. It's become, with Marbury versus Madison, I believe is the case, and that was the first case that the court decided that something was unconstitutional, and that the court had that ability to say if a law was constitutional or not, as opposed to sort of practically fighting it out. But yeah, checks and balances. Yeah, now that's so what Niagara there is talking about, not so much democracy, but a republic. That, again, you can use republic in many ways, but the sort of Aristotle version of a republic. And so, yeah, that's what he's looking at. Democracy for demos, people's power, people not by the majority. I think there's something fishy about Vance. I'm not able to point at exactly what. Okay, Rhaegar, J.D. Vance is not a politician. I forget who the interviewer was. I'm picturing him, but I forget his name. If you look up some of the stuff within the last sort of year or more with... one of the two brothers, the mathematician brother. I know that's vague. I'm just messing up names. If you want to try to sometime hit me up on the Discord server, I can probably get you to it. He's part of a group of, I don't know how to put, I think that Peter Thiel and a few others that are sort of modern thinkers that were put together. Yeah, Vance is an interesting person. There's a group of people out there that are forward thinkers, and so Vance is an interesting person. Keep hydrated, yes, I will. Originally, demos means majority in power, not everyone, as opposed to part of the people. Yes, originally, opposition was not people. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what to eat for dinner. Yes, very true. That's one of the things. But you have nude beaches as well for other folk. Yeah, no, but it's just the idea. I'm talking laws versus social conventions. What is legal to do versus what is acceptable to do in polite company. Democracy nowadays is really liberal democracy, which means the same as constitutional republic. In farmers' days, this is different from classical democracy. Yeah, you're right. The Kaiser, yes. German strongman. Well, okay, German strongman, Kaiser. Well, one thing with the Kaiser, like a king, is that there is a certain legitimacy to power beyond the simple exercise of power. Okay? How do I put this? Because yes, at some point, all of their ancestors or whatever are simply strong men that got military power. But if we're looking at monarchy or the way the Germans and the Austrians, or however you want to use the term Kaiser, which of course just simply means Caesar, which is a family name, but is a and we can look at some monarchies like the Polish monarchy or the Holy Roman Emperor were elected. Now, often they would try to elect some of the weakest people so that the various regional powers would have more power and not a strong centralized power. But we're looking at an authority set up on some basis other than simple power grab and or competency or something, effectiveness. Meaning that if you have, whether you call it a Kaiser, a king, or some similar sort of title, you're giving, the society is giving him authority, and then whether he exercises it himself or he gives pieces of that authority to others. Like we can see George the Sixth of England during World War II. He is not commanding the armies and the navies. He is not commanding the production in Britain, right? But he is the final authority in Britain. You've had an election prior to the coming of the war. The war happens. The war starts to go to hell, and that France is falling. And Chamberlain, who was the last, if you will, democratically elected prime ministers of England, in that his party, the Conservative Party, wins the election, and he is the head of the Conservative Party, so he becomes the prime minister. Well, when that's fallen all to hell, he gets together with the two other leading conservative politicians, Churchill and I keep the other one. I keep blanking on his name. And the three of them get together in a room and decide who's going to be the next leader, basically. And it's Churchill. And it's basically Chamberlain is going to go to the king and recommend Churchill. And so there isn't another election. The king gives Churchill authority to run Britain with the understanding that Churchill is going to do everything in his best power to fight that war and not be a partisan for the Conservative or the Tory party. In that Lord Halifax, thank you, Foka. Thank you for that. Yes. In that, he'll have liberals, he'll have labor people in the cabinet. He'll get the best person, and of course that labor politician is going to have to toe the line in that he can't run off on some special labor program. He's going to just be the guy that's running the farms or running aircraft production or what, he's going to come, it's an all party. So they go all the way through until basically the end of the war in 45 there. And I don't know if the war was over in Japan yet or not, that they finally have another election and Churchill loses that election. He comes back about 5 years later and wins, becomes prime minister again, and getting his, and he still so when Churchill's won again, it's a mix of the king giving him the prime minister's authority as well as the people through the election. And so Britain to this day is a mix of royal authority giving authority to the prime minister and a mix of the people giving authority to the prime minister. So it's both top down and bottom up authority system in Britain in this day with its monarchy. Because Britain is very democratic in a way, but in a way it's not. Current prime minister got very few votes. I mean, he got a really minority votes, but he has the most seats in Parliament, and it's really sort of really, really weird because it's the first past the post, which to Americans this is crazy in that, in America, to win a seat in any basic election, you have to have 50% plus one vote. So you have to have the most votes. And so if no one gets the most votes, we do a runoff between the top two. Where in Britain, well, you could win with 33% of the vote, so long as all the other people running for that seat got less than 30% or less than 33%. If they got 32% and 11% and whatever else, so there could be an overwhelming majority that's all right-wing or center and right-wing, and it's the extreme left, or it could be the extreme right, and the center and the left got actually more votes. So in that sense, it's undemocratic in that you can have, like we currently have in Britain, a government that is, at least from a voter's total, a massive minority government. I think they should not go to proportional representation. I think they ought to go to runoffs on seats that don't get a majority vote on that particular, because they're, in the North England district, whatever, if no one gets a straight out majority, the top two vote getters do a runoff election, 5 days, 10 days later, whatever it is. And so it just, pick your most favored or least bad, whatever person, there, so that you get that kind of thing is what I think Britain should change to. A bit more like America, yes. Not saying they should become everything like America, but just that way. So you have that, but you have the idea of a mix of authorities. But so Churchill throughout the war is really running on royal authority with the idea, and everybody understands that Churchill is going to make mistakes because he is human. But the idea is that if he needs to, he'll fire somebody, whether it's a general or a cabinet member or just some guy running production, or running the port facilities somewhere. If he's messing up the port facilities, he's fired and we're getting somebody new. And so you have you have that. So German strongman is a Hitler or a Mussolini, and we can see how the situation, particularly in Italy, now you have the Germans' occupation complicating it, so Italy turns into a civil war situation at World War II, but you have chaos in Italy. You have the king deciding, okay, we're going to put this fascist dude in charge of the government. So Mussolini, so long as he's being effective, and he was an effective modernization person in Italy. I'm not sure of my choices if I would pick Mussolini, if I knew all the practical choices of who's going to run Italy, but for what I know of him, he's doing, again, I'm not a fascist. I'm not saying, fascism is the way forward or the way I'd want to go, but I think he does a reasonably good job taking a sort of screwed up Italy and modernizing it. Now he gets Italy into World War II, and when things get bad enough, it's the king, the royal authority, that arrests, along with the fascist Grand Council, arrests Mussolini and signs a separate peace, if you will, with the Allies. So you have a check and a balance. You have that royal authority in Italy, which I think we can see was a mistake to get rid of it after World War II. So you have that, where you don't have that check or balance kind of thing on Hitler or Stalin. So you see them going to all kinds of extremes. So yeah, so with a Kaiser or a king, it's more than just strongman. Corrupted with money, communist, 1745 confirmed. Yeah, okay. Athenian tribes were geographic divisions. Okay, geographic. And his folk, I think I'm figuring out here, it's a new version of his name. Okay, Germany decided. No right, no left government in Germany. Yes, but that is, the SPD is not socialist anymore for years. Well, yeah, but I'm just either center right or center left. But I don't see a center right in Germany. Not since picturing Helmut Kohl. I don't see a center right in Germany. I see a center and center left. I don't see a center right. Aristotle meant republic by mixed regimes. Yes, folk. Yes, exactly. Where Plato uses republic with his golden-souled people at the top and his silver-souled people as the enforcers. So and that's sort of between, the mentor is Socrates, the teacher is Plato, the student is Aristotle. And Aristotle's student, or most famous student, he had more than one student, but his most famous student is Alexander the Great, just to give you that. Trump would not allow Kaiser. Our Constitution forbids every movement that replaces the Constitution. Easy. Yeah, I can understand that. Well, yeah, but again, that would be somewhat undemocratic. Ein Volk, ein Deutschland, ein Christian Länder. Yes. Still catching up very close. Elections are very expensive things to do. Well, it's more expensive not to have an election than to have one. This is the thing, strong arm here. We get a lot of people in America. You know how much it's going to cost to deport all these illegal aliens? Blah 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 blah. Like that's going to matter, because we shouldn't have let them in the first place. But the cost of leaving them here, whether it's social welfare programs or prisons, because they're going to commit crimes and should go to prisons, or the myriad other costs, are going to be much more than giving everybody jet plane rides back to wherever in the world they're from. How many jet plane rides are we going to have to give Nigerians back to Nigeria that have somehow made it across the Atlantic and come across our borders illegally? Well, that's cheaper than letting them stay. Elections, runoff elections, extra elections, elections when that are cheaper than the disruption and chaos in society that you're going to have when you have situations where the people that govern the populace are not listening to concerns of the populace, okay? The mass migration of people would not be a problem for Europe if everything else was going well for Europe. Some people wouldn't like it. And especially the people that get stabbed or raped or whatever by the asylum seekers wouldn't like it. But if everybody had a job and there was plenty of cheap energy and plenty of cheap food and everything else was going good in Europe, people would not be massively upset by it. But things aren't going well in Europe. Energy is getting more and more expensive. Food's getting more expensive. Jobs are harder to get. So you get all of that going on. And so with all of that going on, people can put up with that if they can go, oh, hey, yeah, there's this war in Ukraine, so Russia's shut down the pipeline, so we don't have as much energy, so we have to deal with this, deal with the world, because the world, doesn't always go the way we want it to. Okay, we can do that, but then we're also having this mass migration? No, things aren't working right. So elections will be cheaper than not having the elections. Okay, let's beam some. We have a general consensus here with half Dustin parties and America have chaos with only two parties. Yeah. It's all about consensus and making deals. True freedom is a myth. Well, okay, hello, the sugar red fox. Well, when you put true in front of it, what do you mean? Freedom to do whatever you like, whenever you like, drive on whatever side of the road, drive at whatever speed you have. In America, we do have a lot of freedom here. You can say anything you want here in America legally, so long as the thing you're saying isn't in furtherance of some other crime. Meaning, you and I cannot, say, conspire to defraud the government, because we're defrauding the government. It's not, we can say whatever, nothing is illegal to say unless you're like calling for somebody to commit a crime, like violence. If you're saying, hey, we should all go attack this other person over here. Well, that would be illegal, because it's not because of what I'm saying so much, is because we're saying something to go commit a crime of violence. Now, I can call that other person anything I want to. I can say that person should not be allowed to be here. I could say everything up until whatever I'm calling for is an action that is a crime. So we don't have hate speech laws here in America. We don't have any sort of limitations on any sort of speech, again, so long as that speech isn't directly leading to what would be a crime otherwise. So we don't have speech crime laws here. And we can do just about any actions we want to here in America, so long as those actions aren't criminal. Now, I can talk about gun laws that I think that are limiting our freedom, and there are some stuff, but we have a lot of freedom here in America. It's not now true. How much true? Yeah, you can always put true in front of something and make it that. Pointless too, because you couldn't shift Merkel from power for 15 years. Yeah, well, that's why I went to Helmut Kohl as the last sort of center right leader in Germany. True freedom, as in labor makes you free. Well, yeah. The sort of joke. Okay, you're right. I'm glad I'm right. Yeah, I forget which. Okay, you're not allowed to invade Poland. Who's saying that? Strong? Yeah. Wow, viewership for this game went down. Sorry. Yeah. Hello, lady, both sides. Good to have you here. Yeah, Halifax. I'm still catching up to all the chat. We'll get back to the game. Yeah, they had a king who had responsibility, German king of UK. Yes, yes, there's been a German king since George the First. Very true. But frankly, in medieval era, nobility elected the most capable ruler. Nobility in some countries was of blood origin. UK fallen. Okay, imagine what happened if Harry gets into high position. Well, Harry isn't going to get into any position in England. Too many other people have to disappear before he gets anywhere. I feel like there is still some nepotism back then, and not always the most capable. Well, nepotism. Okay, how do I put interchangeable cogs in the modern world? Humans are not interchangeable cogs. I'm sorry, we're getting off the game here. I hope it's interesting to people. If you're really just here for the Manor Lords, probably you can tune out now, or you tuned out half an hour ago. I'm still working on my thoughts and formulas and how to formulate a non-formula. Formulas are important. Democracy versus authoritarian. Use of force. Trying to build a consensus of for your political establishment versus we've got all the guns, you do what we say. Or the formula of capitalism versus communism or socialism or whatever. Or centralized authority versus decentralized authority as formulas in and of themselves. Yes, they are important. Okay. If you look at something and where we get a lot of stuff wrong in America is when we try to centralize it out of Washington, D.C., because what is good for Texas and what is good for New Jersey can be very different things. The size of the states, the size of the population, the climate, all kinds of things between those two states are different. Cultures of people are different. So yes, the formulas themselves have an importance. But the people as they exist, in my opinion, are of equal importance or about equal importance to the formula. And this is what I see as being lost finally at World War I. I mean, it had been being eroded before then. And the social interactions and other elements within society. I'm picking things out. So nepotism. Nepotism can be very useful and very good. And not, you say, not always the most capable so much as who they could best use for their own desires. Okay. Most capable. Well, how do you know who's most capable? Either back then or today. Do we give somebody a test? Are we going to go to the Confucian setup where you have the the not Manchus, the Mandarins, where you have to go, you pass the Confucian test, you become a Mandarin, you become in essence, a mid or high level essence bureaucrat, and once you get past that test, you're set for life because you're a Mandarin in China, and you passed it. Is that it? Most capable, or how do you know who's most capable? I may be a great let's just say I may be a great military leader, but I'm a lousy administrator. So being a general or a colonel or whatever in peacetime, where there's a lot of administrative stuff, I'm just saying this in theory here. I'm not saying I would be, but we're just going in theory. So being that, I might show up as being barely competent at being a general because you're doing all that sort of peacetime administrative type stuff, and a lot of the wars that the U.S. have been fighting, generals are, I'm including Vietnam to a large extent in this, have been immaterial to the fighting because the fighting is all tactical. It's small units encountering guerrillas out there. So generals, what are they doing? Running around being morale officers, showing up at bases and trying to lift everybody's spirits, trying to make sure everybody has the bullets and the beans to fight the war. No, they're just sort of administrators. So I might be a very, barely competent general. But if you were to give me a World War II or even a Korea where you have, maneuvering elements and that, I might end up being an inspired military leader who can feel and read that battlefield as it's happening and turn the enemy's flanks at key moments and show up, at the right moment and get that battalion charging at the enemy and get the whole enemy things flanked and routed, and they're all running away, and even though they were 4 times our size and we've just kicked their butts, and I would come out and be the one of the great generals of history. Okay, but how do you know who's most competent? Unless I've had a war to, and being an armchair general, which is what I consider myself here, that's wargaming. That's okay. Niagara's going to go. See ya. Maybe you've already left, but that's different than actually being out on the battlefield, general or whatever. So, wargaming general, I think I'm pretty good at. I don't know if I would be any good at an actual general. That's a different skill set. Okay, so nepotism, most capable. Sometimes, if we're looking at in the modern world or in the, older world, the most capable person may be not your friend. He may want your job. Whether you're prime minister or you're a company manager or you're a town mayor or you're whatever your job may be in business or in government, where your family member might not be the most capable person of doing the job, but he's going to, when you say do this job, he's actually going to go and try to effectively do the job. He's not going to, hopefully, he's not going to try to sabotage the job to make you look bad. He's going to try to get that job done and make sure it gets done good. And you may not know the guy you're talking to, how capable is he? But you know how capable your family member is. Now, he may not, you may know he's not the most capable person out there, but he's a reasonably capable person as opposed to an idiot or somebody you've got to, hold their hand in doing the work. But he's reasonably capable. This other guy, well, he may be wonderful, but I don't know him well, where I've grown up with this family member. So nepotism isn't the worst thing in the world. I know we went on that tangent, but so I just I think I've demonstrated how people seeing immigrants are replacing original population, and they're seeing that migrants are appointed to higher positions than original population. There's something very wrong in Europe. Okay. I acknowledge that historically that this is the case, but I don't know. American freedom currently quickly changing. Well, we're getting more freedom back here in America, that's for sure. Newsrooms being helped from the Oval Office over not using wording they told articles. Yeah, that was very much under Biden. I like Manor Lords, but also historical and political studies, so it's been fun to listen to. Very good. Nepotism isn't necessarily bad. For example, this is Ragar. Children of quality teachers tend to inherit talent. They can be great teachers because of both talent and because they want to make their parents proud. Even half talent can be a lot better than no talent. Well, yeah, and nepotism, at least my understanding of the word, is family. Favoring somebody because they're family members. And I'm not sure if it technically expands out to, but if we expand it to proteges, like in the British Navy in the 18th century, which I've read a lot about, you would help lower ranking officers through their career up their career ladder. Now, sometimes they were doing it because this guy is, and of course there were always guys then, this guy is very talented. Sometimes you might do it because this guy's father, you're a captain, the guy's father is an admiral, and you want to get in favor with the admiral, so you may be lifting up somebody that isn't the most competent. But, so proteges and other things, that can be a way, it can be both abusive of a system as well as helping the system along. And so, yeah, it's good and bad. Americans can get a medal just by being wounded. That's also something. Well, I think most nations have a wound badge. Germany did that. I think Britain has a wound badge. You get a medal just for being wounded. Is this sentence? I don't understand. People are seeing migrants people are seeing the migrants replacing the original population. Well, I think we're seeing a history of migrants coming in and jobs and replacing the original population here in America a lot. So numbers and capacity to handle it accordingly. Because there are incidents in which you have had like a canning or a fish processing factory. I forget exactly what it was. In some place, I think like in the state of Louisiana, in the last like 10 or 15 years or something, at one point they literally fire all their employees, shut down for a few weeks, so that they're not like firing them for the cause. They're getting rid of them because they're shutting down. Sort of, laying them off. And then they reopened the factory with all non-American workers. Now, technically, they all have to have social security number or work green card numbers or social security numbers. Whether those are all legal workers or all illegal workers with fake IDs, I don't know. But they've reopened up with cheaper labor. There's been cases of this. So that is clearly a case of the local population in jobs being replaced by foreigners. We see here in California a long history of immigrant populations coming in, rising up the ladder of society, while the black populations here in California, I'm talking this specific California, not. So that they have become stagnant and they've become a stepping stone to be stepped on by different waves, some from Asia, like the Vietnamese or the Filipinos, have come in and taken job levels. And this was back in the 70s and the early 80s. Job levels that have stepped on and stepped over the black populations here in California. So it is combination of keeping the blacks underemployed or employed in very, very low skill jobs. And so we have definitely seen that. And I've definitely heard lots of tales, both when I've been there personally, as well as through various media things. In Britain, a bunch of low-wage workers coming in from places like Poland and Russia, particularly before Poland or Russia were part, or Poland, obviously not Russia, were part of the EU. So these migrants, whether legal or illegal, I don't know, and some of it was before Poland was part of the EU, were coming into Britain and getting farm work and other work. And again, it may be cases in which a bunch of them are 100% legal, but coming in and willing to work at the lowest legal or below, maybe even, because sometimes, oh, hey, we're going to pay you, £5 an hour or £10 an hour in Britain. Oh, okay, good. Oh, but you got to kick back £2 an hour to me unofficially or something. So even though sometimes you may be technically paid minimum wage, but you get you're getting less, you're getting cheaper labor coming in, and this is back like in the 90s, as you can tell, like I'm saying, in Britain. So you get, and that's, yes, those we're talking more or less European peoples coming into Britain. So we're definitely seeing the idea of cogs, replaceable cogs. And yet not and it's a complicated machine. And like I say, some of it I've been watching and some of it I've heard about, before I've been watching it. But we see, as the British Empire / Commonwealth is breaking up, we see a lot of cogs coming into Britain that are not as good as British cogs. Now, they may both be doctors or nurses, British nurses, and male or female, I'm not talking about that, but British nurses versus Jamaican nurses coming in, back in the 60s and the 70s, that it may be skilled labor, but they're coming into such a scale that, and they're being treated as if, well, hey, it's a nurse is a nurse is a nurse. Does it matter that one has, certain accents and certain ideas and identities? So, it's not that every cog is the same in the machine, but they're treating anybody with a nurse diploma or a dentist diploma as a dentist cog or nurse cog as equally replaceable. And I know from dealing with people that some people are problem solvers and some people are just simply follow the formula, what they're taught to do. They know what they're taught to do, and they can do that. And they treat everything as if it's something they've been taught to do. And if it's something sort of slightly different, well, fit it in the cog that they know. Put it in the way that they know. And other people may have the same graduate diplomas or whatever, but they're creative and dynamic thinkers. So, who do you want to work on your teeth? Who do you want to work on your automobile? Who do you want to whatever? Some things are more important than other things, of course. Some things are more difficult than others. So, yeah, it varies. And so this gets back to, so when replaceable cogs, it's not every worker is equal to, even the governments are thinking that, but they're, it just doesn't matter to them. Let's see, Beamslam, saw rich immigrants probably sounds like a corruption issue. Yeah, there's corruption out there. Do it sufficiently to be punished. So why don't the USA have laws to prevent immigrants from having jobs without citizenship? We do. We have laws. We have E-Verify. We just don't enforce them. You could literally have 10,000 people, and we very well may have 10,000 people with the same Social Security number. Social Security number is just, a sort of a serial number that they give to us that we're supposed to, track for eventually paying into the Social Security system. And this is one thing that Elon Musk recently tweeted, I saw out, that I don't think, he realized that the system, the Social Security Administration system, doesn't have any sort of idea of individual numbers, meaning you can literally have 10,000 people paying, into the same thing, because at least it used to be you knew where to go and you go get a Social Security card that would say you were John Smith and here's a number on it. And people would print these up, and you'd show up at a job site and hand over a counterfeit card. I think some of them probably looked very legit, and some of them may have looked very unlegit, but you'd hand it over, and the guy, would fill it out. No, okay, yeah, John Smith. Oh, John Smith doesn't speak English. Well, okay. And they weren't even smart enough to put Jose Miguel or whatever the hell on it. But it's just John Smith, and okay, put it in the system. And they make payments to the government for Social Security and whatnot, and payroll taxes and all that stuff. And it never gets bounced back that this person is not legally allowed to work. So you get counterfeit documents. This is all the big myth. Well, illegal aliens don't commit very many crimes. Well, other than coming here illegally. Well, they also commit identity theft, because some of these are taking actual people's names and Social Security numbers, or they're committing fraud by getting a fake worker, Social Security card, and that isn't, because they bought it from a dealer on a street corner, almost literally, or at a little bodega, or some, not getting it from a government office. And so they're committing this crime. It may be a white collar crime in that they're not physically attacking somebody, but they're coming in and you're using fraudulent documents to get jobs. So they're committing fraud. And that's how they're committing crimes. Hey, Eric. They're committing crimes beyond simply being here illegally. And just now, in the last, I would say 6 months, places that are particularly in the northeast of America and inner cities are just now waking up that the American population, often black, are now realizing that they're being flooded in with cheap workers. At first, a few years ago, that didn't matter to them because so many of them were on welfare. The black people were on welfare payments. Well, what does it matter? But now they're struggling in that the government-supplied housing is becoming overrun with non-Americans coming in, and they're starting to realize that these black populations are not going to do well out of, it isn't all dark-skinned people versus light-skinned people. It's really, they're starting to wake up. It's Americans versus non-Americans. And so this is why you had a significant, I forget what it was, I think it was something like 30% of black males that voted, not of black males, but of the black males that voted, something like 30% voted for Trump. Something like normally the Republicans might get 5% of black males voting for the Republicans. I mean, there's always been some black males and females voting for Republicans. Now, it was probably more like 5 or 10% black females that voted for Trump. But, and it's long been known that if you got about 30 to 40% of the black population voting for the Republicans, the Democrats would never win an election again. And this is one of the reasons the Democrats have been wanting to flood America with new non-white citizens as to grow their voter base eventually. So, yes, that is. They're pretending laws would be too racist or something. Yes. In socialism, there is such a law, mostly followed. All right. Well, I think like we've gotten way off from playing the game and everything. I think we'll call it a day. I really appreciate Beam Slam. I know Eric just showed up. I know Ragar's been here. Thank you, Ragar. Or Foca Niagara, I know, is stepped out and playing War Thunder right now. And the Sugar Red Fox, thanks for showing up, hanging out with me. And Strong Arm, just going back up the thing, the text here. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. I should be back tomorrow for some War Thunder. So if you guys want to drive tanks with me or just watch me drive tanks, MMDB, thank you for being here. We're going to be doing that tomorrow. So we might talk politics while driving tanks, but mostly driving tanks. So thanks all. And Monday I'll be on Slitherine TV playing going through tutorials of Strategic Command Modern Operations. Unfortunately, and I blank on names. He's a bit of a friend, so I'm blanking on it. The guy who normally did it is no longer streaming so much on Slitherine. He's doing other things for Strategic Command Modern Operations. So I'm sort of taking up the slack there, but it's I'm just in the doing the tutorial phase of it. I really enjoy it, but it's just I enjoy Strategic Command Modern Operations. I think it's a great sim / game, but it's heavy lifting getting through learning it all. So it just how much stuff on my plate. So that's why I'm just in the learning stage. And if you say it's great, gamer, why aren't you playing a lot? Well, there's a lot of great games, and when you have one that takes huge amounts of hours to learn, you don't always pick that one. So I will be doing that Monday, and of course back next weekend. So everyone subscribe, follow, whatever.